New York City. Whether at night or during the day, New York is always a bustling city. People, vehicles, and tall buildings. Ironically, within the same city exist parks devoted to open space and recreation that are preserved and maintained by the National Park Service.
Many Americans, if not most Americans, are aware of the national parks throughout the country, but have very little idea that in a place like New York City, the National Park Service facilities are so many here.
Sometimes people are only aware of the neighborhood and city parks.
There is a Cropsey Park right by my house. I've been going there since I was little. I've been to parks in Long Island. I've even been to Floyd Bennett, but I did not know that it was part of National Park.
The Statue of Liberty is the most recognized national park site in New York City, but this is just one of the many national park sites at your doorstep.
Think of the greater New York area, the national parks of the New York Harbor, all the parks included. There are many, many sites. The Gateway alone has 3 units in Brooklyn, 3 units in Staten Island, or 3 segments, 3 sections in Staten Island. Sandy Hook is another separate section of Gateway. In Manhattan sites, there are 5. There are 2 in the harbor itself at Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. Associated sites like the Tenant Museum adds another. So there really are a number of sites right here in the metropolitan area for people to enjoy.
Located in the heart of Brooklyn and Queens is the Gateway National Recreation Area.
Gateway National Recreation Area is unique in that it exists in New York City. Subway runs right through the heart of it. Brooklyn and Queens, probably 2 of the most populated and culturally mixed places in the world, are built all around these lush and equally rich wetlands of Jamaica Bay.
New York is also called the cultural capital of the world because of the diversity of race, language, and culture that can be observed in the city.
You don't have to get on a plane and travel around the world. You can just walk around Queens to find Little Italy, Little India, Little Guyana. There's, I believe, over 108 languages spoken in the borough of Queens.
The rich diversity is the result of centuries of migration. By early 18th century, immigrants from Europe had started moving into New York. Today, the wave of migration continues, with immigrants coming in from Asia, Latin America, and Caribbean countries. One immigrant who might marvel at this wave is Jacob Riis, a Danish immigrant who arrived in New York in 1870. Riis later became famous for his photographs, through which he drew attention to the conditions under which immigrants lived. He advocated for respect of different cultures and championed the development of parks as a definite need for the masses of immigrants. Upon his death, he was honored by having a park named after him. Jacob Riis Park is now a unit of Gateway National Recreation Area.
Jacob Riis would think that what has finally happened is something that he dreamed about, that the cultures would blend in this great American experiment. And he always spoke and he always wrote that give them time, give each group time to be part of the community, to understand, to keep the dialogue open. And I think he would marvel at what Queens, what New York City has become.
Since the establishment of the Gateway National Recreation Area in 1972, women and men of the National Park Service have been working with park users belonging to different races and cultures.
In every park I've ever worked in New York City, I see every kind of race, really. In fact, sometimes you don't know where people are coming from, whether they're from some Central American country, whether they're from the Caribbean, or whether they're from the Middle East or from Europe.
The community garden at Floyd Bennett Field is one example of diversity in the backgrounds and races of park users.
I love the diversity that's here. We have every age, every ethnic group, and we all just garden together.
This is the West Indian Carnival in Brooklyn, New York. The West Indians are also called the Caribbeans. Coming from the different islands, Aruba, Jamaica, Guyana, Haiti, Anguilla, Barbados, and many others around the Caribbean Sea. They are recognized as one of the new groups of immigrants in the New York area.
Within the Caribbean, a way of relaxing and a way of releasing the stress is done through things like carnivals.
But carnivals are just one of the means through which the members of the Caribbean group come together.
One of the things that has brought many of the groups together are the customs and sports that they bring from their home countries, one of which is cricket and another one is soccer.
Just as they have been reaching out to other groups, the National Park Service has been reaching out to the Caribbean community by providing facilities at the gateway for new activities.
I love the outdoors, and I have had the pleasure of going to quite a few parks in the Queens, New York area. And in fact, cricket is an outdoor sport, and it's played in a couple of the parks around New York, like Jacob Riis Park, for instance, and Floyd Bennett Field.
The National Park Service desires to see members of the Caribbean community use more of the facilities that are available at the gateway.
It's not really the Guyanese and Caribbeans that we're seeing here on a regular basis. We do see them in the large scale events that they enjoy having those days, but they're not our regular visitors.
In the past, large groups have found it difficult to hold events at the park.
Use of the park. Now the requirements are so demanding sometimes. That in itself is a turnoff in many instances. You apply to use a park for example, a family fun day. You want to get together to keep a family fun day. There are so many restrictions you've got to adhere to.
I know some of our regulations may seem archaic to visitors, but they're really not. They're really simple. There's no glass. The glass breaks, someone's going to cut their feet. The same thing with barbecuing. That needs to take place in designated grills, not portable grills, because people overturn them and people burn their feet. Most of the visitors out here to Riis Park are barefoot. The last one is no alcohol. Alcohol and swimming just don't mix. So it's pretty simple. Visitor safety and protecting the resources are our two focuses.
Change in the pattern of immigration and park users suggests the need for understanding and learning.
Since the park was established in the early 70s, Brooklyn and Queens have grown and they've changed. And the National Park Service constantly has to reevaluate how to manage sites that serve the role of vital wildlife sanctuary, conservation areas, as well as essential recreational and restorational open space for thousands of New Yorkers.
How does the National Park achieve this feat?
National Park Service has teamed with Brooklyn College's Department of Sociology to research and document the ways that people are using the parks, what they may wish for, what their experiences are like, so that they can meet the needs of a changing community.
Jerry Crace is a professor at Brooklyn College. He teaches a course on visual sociology through which he trains students and interns.
So the students have been trained in the classrooms and in the readings about the communities and about the National Park Service, and also by touring the facilities.
A person could only be a good ambassador of a cause when that person speaks from experience. Benish has had the opportunity to be a student in the visual sociology class, as well as become an intern working with the National Park Service.
I thought it was just going to be interviewing people and that's it. I didn't know that there was other stuff that we would be doing, like actually experiencing all the facilities of the national park.
Went on the boat ride. Well, it kind of brought back memories when I was younger. I used to go on boats all the time with my family, so it was really fun. And I got to see the little salt marshes out there, like across from JFK, and I saw the birds, like the species that live there. So that was really good.
But what does the interview involve, and what are the questions to be answered?
A large part of the project is that we go onto the streets and start to talk to the people of Brooklyn and Queens and find out how they feel about national parks. Do they know that they exist? Have they visited, and if they have, what are their impressions? Positive, negative, mixed?
No, I did not know there was a national park in New York City.
I have heard of the Floyd Bennett Field, and I do know about a lot of activities that they have for the community.
Me personally, I never heard of it, and maybe if they had a shuttle bus, or they would publicize this park a little bit more for the people in the area. I myself, that's a long way for me to go, but people in the area probably don't know that much about it.
I used to visit the Gateway Sanctuary in Far Rockaway where the birds and all that stuff was when I was younger, but now, I haven't been out there.
Having interviewed women and men in the street about their knowledge of the facilities provided by the National Park Service in the New York area, the interns suggest
I would recommend this project to people who really like nature.
A lot has happened in my neighborhood as far as a lot of youth violence, and I feel like from the experience that I've had at Floyd Bennett Field, I would love for them to have the opportunity to spend their summertime there instead of being out in the street and getting themselves into trouble.
The message I'd like to tell everyone is that please try to keep the park as clean as you can. Either it's for the cultural purposes, religious purposes, or other facilities that you're using. Please try to keep it clean. It is a God-given thing. Protect it like you would protect your house. Just keep it clean because other people use it too.